Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate. Welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. I just wanted to do a little check-in to see how everyone is doing. There's a lot going on. There's a whole lot going on, and we're coming into a very significant cosmological event, the rare hybrid event, rare total eclipse is happening in just a couple of days. On Thursday, April 20th, though this is a timeless message, it will still apply because the energies that are shifting on the planet, they're going to continue to shift. They're not going to let up, ease up, or give us a break. And it can feel kind of heavy unless we really can take advantage of the opportunity to allow what's happening inside of us that's trying to break away, or what's trying to break away of old paradigm, old thinking, old ways of doing that no longer serve us as individual people or us as a society, whether it be locally or globally and everything in between. If we allow that stuff to kind of dissolve and go away without a whole lot of resistance, it's a lot easier, and that's a lot easier said than done, unfortunately. And I'm very, very much aware of that. I deal with my own resistance, and I can feel it around me, and I feel myself getting sucked in sometimes to the drama of what's happening. I have to take a little spiritual fast every now and then, definitely step away from the news and social media long enough to grab what's really important to me, which is the essence of who and what I am. And who and what I am truly has nothing to do with my face, my race, my identity as an individual person, my identity with a certain religion or a certain sports team or a certain political party or a certain family or certain anything. My identity is really one of a cosmological being, just like the rest of us. We're all coming out of the primordial soup, as it were, of the cosmos, the juices of the universe. That's where we all come from. God, if you will, universal intelligence, loving presence, spirit, divine, however you identify with that ineffable spirit in you, that when your body is gone, that part of you goes on. It remains in the memory of those that are left behind, and that ineffable part has to be something, right? We just can't touch it or taste it or see it or use any of the senses that we're used to. So when I connect more with that and remember that, and change the ratio from being too much of the world and to in the process of what's happening in 3D. And oh my goodness, if I can really switch that around and remember, yeah, get in here and really plug into this, it helps me when I have to. I can't live completely in here. I don't ashram and monk my whole life. Most of us do not. We have to live a reality-based world. However, the reality for me works much better when I can remember less of the 3D and start my day in that position. And then when I feel myself getting really kind of hammered by what's happening around me and all of the situations and the circumstances and oh no, and the reality of what really is happening in 3D, it doesn't matter what I believe about the cosmos or 5D or my spirituality or my religion or apocalyptic endings and all of that. Doesn't matter what any of that is. If I don't want to just completely call it a wash and go, oh well, I need to stay aware of what is actually happening. However, I can't let myself get run over and swept up in all of the drama and the hysteria and the angst of it. And right now, there's a huge amount of it, and I'm afraid it's not going to let up. That's kind of what I've seen for quite some time, and I've felt, and I'm an empath, so I really feel things very intuitively. And as I'm in prayer time, I really get, some visions of that things are turbulent, and they're going to continue to be turbulent. We have a lot of cosmological events that are coming. We have a rare total solar eclipse on Thursday, which is just a couple of days from today when I'm filming this. However, this is a timeless message. It will count no matter when you watch it. Welcome. But we have that. We have a new moon in Taurus. We have Mercury retrograde. Anytime that we have stuff happening in space that's shifting, it's going to shift the vibration and the frequencies that are planted, that are coming towards the planet, that are directed at us. As cosmological events are happening and planets are aligning and realigning and moving, it changes how they show up in our world in 3D. A lot of people don't understand that. They think it's related exclusively to astrology, and I'm very deeply involved in astrology belief. However, I also understand that frequencies that are coming at us, they come from the sun, they come from the planets, they come from our own magnetosphere, and there's cracks in the magnetosphere. We're going to notice that, and we can identify them scientifically. However, we don't often think about what those are doing. How did I feel when there is a coronal mass ejection? When I look at space weather, do I notice that I feel kind of funny on those days? Do I notice that there is an actual change in how I feel on a full moon, or during Mercury retrograde? Do I notice that I'm just kind of feeling a little bit off? And that's the kind of thing that as an empath I do notice. I've always noticed, I just didn't know that they were tied in very heavily with the cosmos, and that I tie in with my spirituality, and that's how I reach where I go with all of that. And it's all very internally directed, and I would encourage you, no matter which way you go with it, no matter what you believe, please get inside of you and find that ineffable, beautiful part of you that knows how to do you. The blueprint of you, it's already known to you. Most of us, we weren't taught that. We were taught something else, that our parents knew what was best, and sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. And a lot of times they didn't. I know with my own children, I didn't have a clue a lot, but they taught me a lot about what their blueprint was. And they taught me a lot about the blueprint of me, about where I was misaligned from the blueprinting that I got. The imprinting and blueprinting mesh together, that turns into a toxicity, unfortunately, with how people can motor us and convince us that we really aren't that ineffable part that we really are. We're not the programming that people taught us. We're not the programming that we taught other people. We're not what other people identify us to be. And most of the time, honestly, we're not even what we identify as. We are so much more and so much less. We're that dichotomy. We're that polar opposite of this and this. I'm a front and a back. I'm not just one or the other. I couldn't possibly have one without the other. I can't possibly have a top without a bottom. And so we have our positive side and we have our negative side. And many of us like to identify, with the more positive things about ourselves, and then kind of eschew and ignore or, blame about why it's that way, the negative side. And all of that stuff will come up and rear its head, good or bad, at these big cosmological events, especially the annular solar eclipse, the Ring of Fire. That's what's coming up on the 20th of April in just a couple of days. As I said, time this message, but that is very often a time when we can really feel the fire burning off a lot of the BS of whatever has been compounding around us. And we can see it, historically, and the immediate history and in time, but just look at immediately what's going on in the environment around you right now. Is there a lot of chaos? Is there a lot of fighting? Is there a lot of irritation, irritability, crankiness? Is there a lot of peace, quiet, and solitude? You can decide for yourself where you are in the spectrum, and if it aligns with things that are happening in the cosmos and it makes sense to you, maybe pay attention to that and say, how can I be better prepared? Not to expect or have it brought into you that I'm going to obviously be really messed up during Mercury retrograde. It's obviously going to be terrible. That's not what I'm saying. We're not purchasing the future based on a paradigm. That's exactly what I'm saying is don't get sucked into. However, be aware of what is reality. And the reality is that when we have these big events happening from outer space, and internally within our spirit, it can really cause some rumblings and some bumblings that will really make us feel sometimes out of control. It can make us feel sad. It can make us feel hostile. It can make us feel retaliatory, spiteful, sad, especially Mercury retrograde. We're going to burn off some stuff and then go right into Mercury retrograde, where we might get a chance to review some things that I'm not really sure I want to review that. We all have that stuff, no matter what anybody around you is saying or doing. If you've got somebody that's doing their life in an ashram and they never leave, their own state, that's fantastic. However, that's not, brutally honestly, that is not the majority of people. And I kind of stray away from anybody who tells me their life is just, peachy keen and they don't do anything that is negative, because that to me is not the reality of where I live. I live on a planet that's in a great deal of distress, and is in a very hostile mode at the moment, trying trying to find itself and trying to right itself and get that balance back of what we all know internally. However we identify with that ineffable spirit, however it is that we label all of that, that matters not to me. I could care less. And it doesn't involve necessarily going to a church or not going to a church or aligning any particular way at all, other than the calling of the soul. And when we really listen to that, that's what can guide us through there. And when I listen to that and try to ignore that other things are happening out there, that there are other people who are struggling, that really is not in alignment. It causes a great imbalance in my heart and in my soul and in my mind. And so I would encourage anyone that as you're coming into these times, things are very turbulent already in the mass public. If they're not in your world, congratulations, you're probably not here. And if they are, hang on, because the voice of reason, I used to have a therapist that told me this, and I just hated when she said it, and yet I knew. I listened to her and I kept going to her. The other therapists that said things I didn't like, that just, they didn't sing with my soul, and like, that's not cool, and I quit going. This woman, I saw her for 8 or 9 years, I think, and she would say to me, this too shall pass, but not in a biblical way. She would say, the stress doesn't last forever. The anxiety doesn't last forever. That horrible feeling of won't last forever. It's a matter of how will you manage that so that you can shorten the duration, because when you're in the midst of it, it can certainly feel like forever. And the last thing I want to do is not take advantage of every single thing that I possibly can to lessen those periods of feeling out of control or angry or sad or regretful, remorseful, oh God, or retaliatory or whatever funky out of balance feeling I have. And again, unless I'm living in an ashram and all day, I'm subject to live in a world where I will need to maintain my emotional balance throughout the day, regardless of what happens, whether I like something, whether I dislike something, whether I think it was fair or unfair. That is where that ineffable spirit, that part of me, that very, very, very solid part of me, might be this big or this big, it's there. No matter what size it is, that is always consistently the same. It is the same beautiful cosmological egg, if you will, that everybody else was born with. It's just that I like to spend more time drawing from that than trying to draw from out here and explain that to that cosmological egg. That little part of me, that ineffable part, understands far better because the blueprint is there already of, yeah, this is a 3D matrix and you're trying to cram and jam us through that and that through us without understanding that there's no cramming necessary. There's a certain flow. And if you get into the flow of the now, there won't have to be the battle point. And a lot of that has to go with grabbing a hold of a moment, grabbing a hold of the anxiety, the anger, the out of balance moment, the emotion, and getting a hold of that and saying, oh yeah, that's right. I am a piece of the cosmological egg. I'm a divine child of the universe. I'm a piece of God. I'm however you identify with that part of you that is universal love. It comes from a place that doesn't know hostility. It doesn't know out of balancedness. It doesn't know a place of being out of balance. Universal energy is universal energy. It doesn't have a polar opposite. We don't understand that well because we do. We live in a polarized world. We can't help that. However, we can definitely listen to that part of us, our gyroscope that can help us keep ourselves balanced and upright, or balanced and on the underside if that's where we need to be. However, I think that probably being balanced and on the upright would be the most balanced that it could be. So if you're feeling the pullings to possibly fall off the deep end or get very sad or drawn into some very laborious things, just remember it doesn't have to last forever. And it won't last forever. And what can you do? Start asking that little ineffable spot in you that already has the blueprint and already has the answer. It already knows. And it's probably waiting. It's going, hey, we'll answer. Just ask for realsy. And the idea that angels aren't helping you because you aren't asking, that one was a problem for me. Because sometimes if we're not really in that alignment to understand the angel energy or the angel idea, or we don't accept religion for whatever reason, that can be a roadblock. And so any part of you that's willing to be spoken to and have the answer given, and it's a beautiful, holistic, childlike place, please get to that place immediately and start asking that, because it has the answer. I promise you it does. Take care of yourself and be well. And remember, get in your skin because you're divine. It's absolutely fine. Take care, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye, friends.